89 million euros. Gone. Not stolen from a vault, not lost in a market crash. Handed over, carefully, voluntarily, by intelligent people who believed they were doing the safest thing in the world. They bought gold in Switzerland, because Switzerland is supposed to be the one place on earth where your wealth is truly protected. They sat in a conference room in Zurich and heard about safe haven assets, about a Swiss refinery, about secure storage, about gold bars waiting with their names attached. Everything looked professional. Everything sounded protected. Everything felt safe. And then one morning, the truth arrived. The company was bankrupt. The accounts were nearly empty. And the gold that was supposed to be their fortress may never have been there at all. This is not a story about why gold is dangerous. Held correctly, gold is one of the oldest and most serious instruments of wealth protection there is. This is a story about a far more expensive confusion, the difference between owning gold and merely controlling a promise, and the difference between the word Swiss and the word safe. I have spent more than 3 decades advising international families on Swiss banking, asset structuring, and the quiet risks that hide behind respectable names. Of every mistake I watch wealthy investors make, this one may be the most dangerous because it arrives dressed as safety. A recent Swiss television investigation examined a company that traded under the name Swiss Gold Treuhand, SGT. According to the report, investors from Germany, Austria, France, Switzerland, and across Europe were drawn in by a single seductive idea: gold, stored securely, connected to Switzerland, offered as shelter in uncertain times. At a conference in Zurich in early 2023, they were told gold would protect them from the coming economic storm. And I want you to notice how powerful that message is. When a person is frightened of inflation, of banking instability, of war and debt and currencies losing their value, gold becomes emotionally irresistible. And they are not wrong to feel that. Physical gold can be a cornerstone of a serious protection strategy. But fear is exactly what makes an investor stop asking questions. The moment someone says, "Your money is no longer safe, but we have the solution," the most important ones quietly disappear. Who actually owns the gold? Is it truly set aside in your name or simply promised? And what happens to you if the company behind it collapses? In this case, according to the report, investors were promised something that should have stopped every one of them cold. 10% in the first year, then 6% every year after. Think about what that means. Gold pays no interest. It produces no rent. It generates no income of its own. A bar in a vault simply sits there. So the moment a gold offer comes wrapped in a fixed, attractive yield, you are no longer only buying metal. You are lending your trust to whatever hidden machine is supposed to produce that return, and you have taken on counterparty risk, whether you realized it or not. And then there was the name itself: Swiss gold, Swiss refinery, Swiss storage. For an international investor, those words do something almost magical. They create trust before a single fact has been verified, which is precisely why they are so often borrowed. A Swiss address is not due diligence. A company registration is not due diligence. A beautiful website, a certificate, a storage confirmation, even a conference in the heart of Zurich, none of that is due diligence. Due diligence is independent verification, not trust, verification. The report revealed something that makes the point painfully clear. The operation leaned on a so-called Swiss gold refinery, presented as a serious industrial player. But the responsible Precious Metals Authority confirmed it never held the licenses required to smelt or to assay gold commercially. Sit with that for a moment. A company can be registered in Switzerland and still not be permitted to do the very thing you believe you are paying it to do. It can call itself a refinery, show you photographs of gleaming bars, and not be holding a single gram that legally belongs to you. I want to be very clear about the people who lost money here. They were not foolish. They were entrepreneurs, retirees, professionals, families, people who spent decades building what they had. Their error was not a lack of intelligence. It was misplaced trust. They trusted the name, the salesperson, the documents, the country, the story. But in the protection of real wealth, trust is not a strategy. Legal control is the strategy. And when you are moving millions, you cannot hand those questions to the very person selling you the gold. That is not advice. That is a conflict of interest. Here is how the story ends. According to the report, part of the missing money was traced to Dubai, where a court eventually ordered more than $35 million to be returned. But by the time the order came, the accounts were almost empty. And this is the nightmare in its purest form. The investor believed he owned gold. In reality, he owned a claim against a company, and when that company collapsed, he was not standing safely behind a fortress. He was standing in line with every other creditor, hoping. So, before you ever move serious money into physical gold in Switzerland, hold 3 questions in your mind. The first is about ownership. Can you prove the gold is legally yours? Not the company told me, not marketing ownership, but real ownership. Are there bar numbers? Is the metal allocated to you, segregated from the provider's own assets, sitting outside their balance sheet, so that if they fail, your gold can still be identified and pulled out and handed to you? If not, you may not own gold at all. You may own a story about gold. The second is about storage. Where exactly is the metal? In which vault? Under which agreement? Controlled by whom? Audited by whom? Can a genuinely independent third party confirm it exists? If the answer dissolves into reassurance instead of documents, that vagueness is your answer. And the third is the one investors almost never ask. Who benefits from the way this is built? Is the person advising you also earning a commission from the seller? Is the storage quietly connected to the dealer? Is there a financial product hidden behind what looks like a simple gold purchase? Are you buying metal or financing someone else's business and being told it's a safe haven? None of this means Switzerland is unsafe. The opposite is true. Switzerland remains one of the most serious jurisdictions in the world for banking, for physical gold, for the protection of family wealth. But precisely because its reputation is so strong, you have to separate 2 things that are easily confused: the Swiss system itself and the companies that merely wear the Swiss name as a costume. The jurisdiction can be excellent and the provider still dangerous. The vault can be real and your legal rights still worthless. This is why wealthy families never begin with "where can I buy gold?" They begin with harder questions: how ownership should be structured, what protects them in a bankruptcy or a dispute, whether their heirs could actually reach the metal if they died tomorrow. For them, gold is never just a shiny object. It is one stone in a legal architecture. And in a real crisis, the price of gold is the least of their concerns. What matters is access, ownership, documentation, succession. Get those wrong, and the very asset you bought for safety becomes your next legal problem. So let the lesson be simple. Do not buy gold because someone has frightened you, because it carries a Swiss label, because a salesperson promises a comfortable return, or because a certificate looks impressive. Before you transfer anything, verify everything: the company, the license, the storage, the ownership, the insolvency protection, and the people standing behind the structure. Because if your gold is not legally yours, independently verified, and shielded from the failure of the provider, then you are not holding a safe haven. You are holding a promise, and promises can vanish. If you are planning to buy physical gold in Switzerland, to store metal outside the banking system, or to build a serious precious metals position for your family, do not begin with the seller. Begin with the appointment of an independent counsel. At Caputo and Partners, We review Swiss banking, gold storage, and wealth protection structures before a single euro is moved, because the time to build the walls is before the siege. Your assets deserve more than hope. They deserve a fortress.